national security. You don't need to know everything.
Before we continue, here's how Sandra's illusion began to crumble. Sandra Louise Boss, a high-achieving consultant, brilliant, driven, yet quietly lonely. In that loneliness, Clark stepped in, polished, charming, a man who offered attention, warmth, and intimacy exactly when she needed it most. And in that vulnerable space, she let his stories in. She let him in. What began as comfort soon became control. He isolated her from friends, shaped her world around his rules, took over her finances in the name of family protection. Motherhood deepened her attachment, but also intensified her fear. Every decision about their daughter Ray was dictated by Clark. No documents, no records, only cryptic excuses about secrecy and security. Sandra's instincts whispered something was wrong, but her heart kept her silent until the day she finally sought the truth. A private investigator delivered the blow she never imagined. No documents, no witnesses, no past, no Clark Rockefeller. The man she married didn't exist at all. And now, as we move forward, it's time to lift the hidden curtains around Clark to uncover who he really was and what steps Sandra will take next. She married a Rockefeller. She divorced a ghost. After years of lies and manipulation, Sandra Louise Boss, now in her mid-30s, faced a brutal truth. The man she had married, the father of her daughter Ray, was not who he claimed to be. Sandra didn't confront him aggressively. Instead, she processed the revelations quietly, hired a private investigator, and discovered the shocking reality. There was no verifiable Clark Rockefeller. Her heart ached, but her mind was clear. Protection for herself and Ray became the priority. In 2007, after careful consideration and legal preparation, Sandra filed for divorce. The grounds were fraud, misrepresentation, and emotional abuse. The man she loved was a ghost. Divorce was just the beginning. Clark fought aggressively, clinging to his false Rockefeller identity like armor. In court, he tried to portray himself as a devoted father, wronged by a career-driven wife. Sandra, armed with evidence from her private investigator, exposed the void in his identity. No records, no childhood history, no verifiable education. His true identity was still unknown, only that Clark Rockefeller did not exist. The court was not fooled. Sandra was awarded full custody of Ray. Then 6 years old, while Clark was allowed only supervised visits, never alone with his daughter. It was a hard-won victory, but Clark remained a looming presence, charming, calculating, and unpredictable. Sandra returned to her career at McKinsey & Company, continuing to excel professionally while juggling motherhood and the emotional scars left behind. She reconnected with friends and family, slowly reclaiming her life, piece by piece. Yet, every court-ordered, supervised visit was a reminder. The man she once loved had deceived her completely. The Clark Rockefeller she married was gone, replaced by a man whose true identity remained a mystery. She remembered the first time he called her Mrs. Rockefeller. What had felt like a dream now made her stomach turn. Subscribe to True Dark Chapter so more of these stories can be told and more lives protected. One ordinary day became every parent's worst nightmare. Clark arrived for a supervised visit, charming and persuasive as always. He convinced Sandra that this would be a special day with Ray. Hesitant but trusting the court's ruling, she agreed. Minutes later, they were gone. Her daughter vanished. Her heart sank. Panic took over. Calls were made, authorities alerted, and the search began immediately. Sandra had known Clark as the charming, mysterious man she once loved, but now that carefully constructed persona shattered. The man she thought was Clark Rockefeller had used the court system, her trust and her love to vanish with her child. The FBI and local police launched a nationwide search. Every lead was followed, but Clark had planned meticulously. He disappeared with Ray, leaving only a trail of confusion and fear. Sandra's world collapsed. The woman who had conquered boardrooms, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and built an empire of intellect and ambition now faced helplessness, despair, and unimaginable fear for her daughter. The stakes were clear. This wasn't just about deceit or lies anymore. This was a life, the life of her daughter, hanging in the balance, and the man she once called her husband, he was a ghost, a manipulator, and now a kidnapper. The man she trusted wasn't just a fraud, he was a potential killer. After Ray's abduction, the FBI and local police launched a nationwide search. Every lead was followed, every clue investigated, and as they dug deeper, the terrifying truth began to emerge. The man Sandra had known as Clark Rockefeller was no Rockefeller at all. His real name was Christian Karl Gerhardsreiter, a German-born con artist with a decades-long history of identity theft, fraud, and manipulation. A life built on lies, now fully exposed. As investigators traced Christian's past, a chilling link emerged. Back in 1985, Christian, living under yet another false identity, had rented a guest house behind the home of John and Linda Sohus in San Marino, California. That same year, John vanished without a trace. Soon after, his wife Linda disappeared as well. The case had gone cold for over 2 decades. Now, in 2008, with Christian under intense scrutiny for abducting Ray, authorities returned to the property. Buried in the backyard, they uncovered human remains, later confirmed to be John Sohus. Christian, once just a suspected con man, was now linked to a possible double murder. The man who claimed to be a Rockefeller, who fathered Sandra's child and infiltrated her life, was now the prime suspect in a chilling homicide. Christian Gerhardsreiter was no longer just a kidnapper. He was a man with a deadly past, a man capable of murder. For Sandra, the stakes had changed entirely. She wasn't only fighting to bring her daughter home, she was trying to save her child from a man who had already taken lives in the shadows of his countless lies. The perfect con man, the charming father, the trusted husband. All illusions. Behind the mask was a man whose history of deception had escalated into something far more sinister. If you've been with us this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next story. Justice finally catches up with the ghost. After a tense and exhausting nationwide search, Christian Karl Gerhardsreiter's freedom came to an end. In 2008, authorities located him living under yet another alias in a remote area of New England. For years, he had evaded capture through meticulous planning, charm, and an endless stream of false identities. When the FBI and local police apprehended him, it wasn't just for the kidnapping of Ray. though that alone would have kept him behind bars for decades. They now had the weight of his murderous past looming over him. The ghost man who had deceived Sandra, stolen her daughter, and vanished into the shadows was finally cornered. The charges Christian faced: a barrage of charges: kidnapping, fraud, and identity theft murder. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a con man or a stolen childhood. It was about a man who had repeatedly manipulated, deceived, and killed, and who had nearly destroyed the life of Sandra and her daughter. Courtroom proceedings were tense, highly publicized, and emotionally charged. Sandra testified about the abduction, the lies, and the emotional trauma she and Ray endured. She detailed the years of deception, the manipulation, and the constant fear she had lived under, all while being blindsided by the man she once trusted completely. Evidence presented by prosecutors painted a damning portrait: forged documents, inconsistent alibis, multiple identities, and a life built entirely on fraud. Investigators recounted the Sohus case, linking Christian to the confirmed murder of John Sohus, with Linda's disappearance still unsolved. Throughout the trial, Christian maintained a composed, charming facade, insisting he was innocent. But witnesses, documents, and forensic evidence slowly unraveled his carefully constructed persona. The man who once fooled a brilliant woman into thinking he was a Rockefeller could not hide from the truth this time. Ultimately, the court found Christian Gerhartsreiter guilty on multiple counts: kidnapping, identity fraud, and murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, ensuring he could never harm Sandra, Ray, or anyone else again. Sandra and Ray were finally free from the shadow of Christian's lies. Ray, 7 years old at the time of her abduction, slowly began to heal with her mother's unwavering support. Sandra returned to her career and rebuilt her life, forever changed but resolute. The ghost of Clark Rockefeller was gone. In his place remained the horrifying reality of Christian Gerhartsreiter, a man whose charm concealed a lethal and deceptive past.